Isa sa mga concern natin ngayon ay ang reading o ang pagbabasa. Napakahalaga ng reading sa pag-aaral ng isang bata. Lahat ng mga knowledge na makukuha ng isang bata sa school, marami ay kailangan natin makuha through reading. Kaya ngayon, nag-imbita kami ng isang reading specialist para mag-share sa atin ng tips kung paano matulungan ang bata sa reading. Kung ano ang mga red flag signs ng possible reading problems at kung merong reading problems, kung anong pwedeng gawin ng parents. Ano ang mga pwedeng gawin ng mga magulang sa bahay, kung paano sila matulungan sa reading at paano sila matulungan na mag-develop ng reading skills. Kung gusto po ninyo malaman ang mga ito, panoorin po ang aming video.
Hello, good day! Welcome to another episode of Ped Titas. So I'm Doc Christine Cusi from Cebu City. Kasama ko din po as usual si Doc Toyang from Manila. And we have a special guest today, yung ating reading specialist, Tasha Mendoza. At what age do we expect children to be able to read? Because sometimes yung mga magulang po lalapit sa amin, Dok, ba't hindi pa nagbabasa yung anak ko at 3 years old, at 4 years old? So, kailan po ba talaga natin i-expect na matuto silang magbasa?
Ang gusto ng reading specialist is that by 7, they already have independent reading skills, no? So some of the parents like to have their kids read earlier. That's fine. But we want by grade 1, which is usually 6 or 7, no, they're already independent in reading, in decoding well, in word fluency. Ibig sabihin, madali sa kanila na magbasa ng isang grade 1 book with understanding. Pero kasi ang 0 to 7, very critical yan. You have to build skills to get them at that level. So if you read earlier than that, that's fine. As long as dinaanan mo yung mga skill building readiness stages to get there.
So, mahalaga talaga na naintindihan nila kung ano yung binabasa nila. Hindi lamang yung nabibigkas nila yung mga salita.
Kailangan lagyan nila ng meaning ang nababasa nila on print. Okay? Kasi pag hindi, bumibigkas lang sila ng sounds. Or they're decoding, pinapagdugtong lang nila yung mga sounds ng binabasa nila, but minsan hindi mo alam kung may sense ba yun sa kanila, or is that really word reading? Have them have options, and quiet time with reading is good. So pag na-develop niya sa mga bata ang joy of reading, right? And it's a leisurely activity for them. Congratulations. Kasi you're on your way to building an independent reader with goods, preparing them for very good study skills. And then throughout yan, from K to 12 and beyond.
Sa lahat ng mga episodes namin dati, even for toddlers, even for preschool kids, we always emphasize that it's very important to have time to read with your kids. Kahit na 10 to 15 minutes every day. Huwag na po ma-stress ang mga magulang na bumili ng mga mamahalin na libro. Kung ano yung merong available sa bahay, read it with your child. You can look at the pictures. For younger kids, you don't even have to teach them how to read. Let them enjoy the experience of nakayakap sa'yo, tinitingnan ninyo yung pictures, kinakwentuhan ninyo siya. And then, that will naturally pave the way for better reading skills ngayon na school-age child na siya.
Even babies, you know, ngayon sinasabi nila, di ba, Doktora Toyang and Doc Cusi, pag newborn, pwede mo nang basahan. Kasi they're developing na the listening skill. Kahit hindi pa sila nakakasalita or they cannot talk back, but you can tell by the way they gaze at you that they are actually listening to your voice. They're developing that language skills by listening, and then later on, pag medyo malaki na sila, actually respond, they express themselves through sounds. So, ibig sabihin, meron silang naririnig that they appreciate, and that connection you have with them starts at a very young age. Ang good books is a good stimulus, no, for them to start listening to sound and language. That's your foundation para maganda yung reading skill nila while they're growing up to 7.
You don't need to buy any fancy programs kasi maraming mga magulang ngayon, meron silang mga nakikitang mga programs na mamahalin na kailangan bayaran para maturuan ang baby na magbasa. Hindi po ito kailangan. So, ang mahalaga talaga ay yung interaction kasama ng mga magulang.
So, sa bahay ko, actually, nakakalat lang ang mga books. Pwede silang dumampot ng kahit anong book at basahin. Sabi ko, do you want quiet time? It's so noisy. Let's have quiet time. Diretso na yan, no? Pupunta sila sa corner nila, kahit ano, kung saan man sila sa house, no? Kukuha sila ng book at magbabasa sila kahit 5-10 minutes. But at least the habit is there, no? Alam, dami ngayon na online, punta kayo sa Facebook, nagsisell ng second-hand books at bargain prices. Gusto nyo mag-accumulate ng totoong books na hindi e-books. Yung totoong books na pwede nilang enjoy yung pages and that experience. I know a lot of parents also, they started to go back to reading. Yan ang maganda, yung example na, oy, nakahiga si mommy sa couch at nagbabasa ng novel. Or a daddy, dati kasi our parents, they used to read newspapers, naalala nyo?
What are the red flag signs that a child might have a possible reading disorder?
Delayed siya sa reading, hindi siya makakope with schoolwork, or hindi siya makasunod sa class. Okay, so what will the teacher say? The teacher will say, the class can already read words at grade level or read text material at grade level. No, grade 1 to 3, nahihirapan pa siya mag-decode kasi nalilito siya dun sa J and G. Nalilito siya sa sound, anong sasabihin niya, J or G, or I and E, nalilito siya. I is named I, but it sounds like E. And then E is named E but sounds like E. Ano bang gagamitin ko sa spelling ko? I or E? Or kung meron akong word, E ba or E ang sasabihin ko? Sometimes nagkakaroon sila ng lack of fluency or hindi madali ang pagbigkas ng word kasi nag-isip pa sila sa mabagal. Right? It means hindi pa nila masyadong ma-master yon pero grade 3 na sila. Okay? So significant yung delay sa school. Okay, another one is hindi nila mabasa ang sight words. Sight words ay mga words na irregularly spelled. So, kunwari, H-O-W. O, ho, ganon. Hindi, how. Kasi this is a sight word, you have to remember how that's spelled because you frequently see it. You have to identify it quickly because you have already used it many times. Pero sila kahit gano'ng kadaming times nila na encounter yung word na yun, hindi pa rin nila ma-remember kung paano siya automatically read. Usually, the parent has already brought them to a tutor, enrichment center, or some remedial class, pero hindi talaga still ma-address. That may be a red flag for a reading disorder. For the smaller ones naman, hindi sila makasegment or blend ng word. Ano ibig yun sabihin? No? Is it okay if the red flag, by the time they get to 7, kunwari meron akong word, no? Bigyan kita ng flashcard. So, by like 6 or 7, they know what the letters are. They may still be confused between the letter sound and the letter name. No? But what they see here needs to be sounded out and then blended together. So for example, dapat masabi ng app, and then put that together, tap. Okay. Sometimes pag may reading disorder ang bata, hindi nila nagagawa yun, no? So, hirap, app, and then they couldn't figure it out. Hindi developed yung ability nila to put sounds together. Nakikita rin natin na nagbabaliktad yung mga sounds. For example, the word is blast, b-l-a-s. Right? 5 sounds at ano yan? In order babasahin. In order bibigkasin ang mga sounds. So they can actually segment it. Pero pag binasa nila ng mabilis, let's say in a phrase or in a sentence, blats. Ganyan. Kasi they cannot, no? It's a disorder. So they cannot sequence their letter sounds to form the right words, no? And this is something na it has nothing to do with how intelligent they are, IQ. It has also nothing to do with, maybe the teacher in the classroom did not teach well. Hindi rin. Unique lang sila kasi in the way they learn. That's why it's reading disorder. And then hirap sila mag-spell, hirap sila mag-read ng basic words. Ito, the examples ko, no, yung mga pagdating ng grade 2, ganyan, when they read words like carried, naging siyang cried. Sa kanila parang they just try to attack the word to cope with school, but actually they're not processing the way they're supposed to process in reading.
Paano naman po yung mga nakakabasa, pero pagdating sa comprehension, hindi na po nila nasasagot.
Ang pagbabasa ay dalawa yan. Isa nakaka-decode sila, isa nakaka-comprehend sila kung ano yung na-decode nila. So yung mga nakakabasa at hindi nakaka-comprehend, they're actually just decoding. Para kaming foreign language na nabibigkas mo yung mga nakasabi sa print, but actually hindi mo siya naiintindihan. Okay? These are comprehension problems. They're comprehension problems that can have many factors, or they can be caused by many things. So comprehension based on fluency. Ibig sabihin, they were not given or they did not develop the decoding skill very well. So hindi siya accurate or wala siyang speed. If you cannot do that or putol-putol yung reading mo because you're unsure of what you're reading, you will not comprehend the word or the set of words to make meaning. Second, meron tayong mga students na they're able to decode well, but they cannot visualize what they're reading. So we have also intervention for that. Kasi hindi mo nakikita di ba? Unless you do some tests, assessments sa reading. And then the third one is the background knowledge. Posible na hindi sila nakaka-comprehend ng kanilang nababasa because they're not familiar with the new information or they cannot bridge it with previous information.
Napapansin ko, when they go to the clinic, sometimes parents would say, Dok, tamad kasi siya magbasa. Hindi siya nagko-concentrate. I mean, that's very common now. But when we evaluate the patient, we explain to the parents na meron po talaga siyang reading problem.
Totoo nga na very important yung sinabi mo na it doesn't have anything to do with intelligence or IQ kasi minsan nalilabel tuloy sila dahil hirap sila magbasa. And at the same time, there is really a process in how their brains are wired. Kaya nagkakaroon ng difference in how they read and how they learn. Minsan kasi nababrand naman sila na, ay, tamad siya, kaya hindi siya nagbabasa. Kinukulit nila yung bata, sabihin nila na, if you just try harder, you're going to be able to read. But it's very important to teach them the process of reading and the process of learning. Yung reading disorder, hindi siya yung madaling proseso lang na madadiagnose na merong reading disorder, pero multidisciplinary team yan na tutulong sa isang batang may reading disorder.
So you're right. It takes a team because ang language-based problems as foundation for reading has to be paid attention to. No? And hindi yan one-man team. We want to have a big picture of what's happening. No? So yung mga developmental pediatricians tulad nyo, you have a way of profiling the child diba? In a broader sense. Tapos malalaman nyo, ano bang kailangan ng child na to develop that language and prepare him for reading? Is it a speech therapist? Is it a SPED teacher? Is it an occupational therapist? Kasi tinitingnan natin yung behavior niya, yung attention niya, yung ability to work or ability to respond to authority or instruction. We are part of this group in the Philippines. It's called the Council of Reading Intervention Specialists. It's a team of 7 centers, Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao, and we do evidence-based and research-based reading intervention strategies and practices. We all now offer online services. So sa reading intervention, sa beginning reading, some centers have math, meron centers na may Filipino intervention din. Tapos natutuwa kami kasi now wala kaming borders, we can serve anyone online. So, ang pwede nilang gawin for a reading assessment, okay, yan ang platform namin for reading intervention. Kailangan nyo muna kumuha ng assessment para alam natin kung ano yung intervention plan. Chorus Facebook page, okay, and leave us a message. Nandun po yung directory ng centers namin. So meron mga ibang parents na they find na kulang ang instruction sa reading because their kids are not coping with the demands of grade level schoolwork. Or meron din iba na parang the parents feel na parang kulang pa, hindi sila nagpo-perform at level, tapos may mga problema like hindi sila motivated to read, hindi nila enjoy ang experience, tapos ayaw na nag-detach na sila, demotivate sila magbasa. And then when they test, talagang grade levels behind ang bata. So the parents, usually they take them to mga reading enrichment programs, they take them to remedial classes or ayan, minsan personal tutor, tapos hindi pa rin siya nagre-respond or reading problems still continue to exist, no? So the parent will have to think about approaching your developmental pedia or a reading specialist for an assessment, no? Kasi reading disorder yan. A reading specialist who is trained or certified to deal with a reading disability or disorder has to be the one to teach this child. Kasi for kids na diagnosed with a specific learning disability or disorder, meron po tayong set of scope and sequence or language na ginagamit sa instruction to approach these kinds of learners. No? When you give them strategy that's specific for their learning profile, na alam ng reading specialist na trained and certified, all of a sudden, no, they're able to, para siyang key, no? Para siyang key na pag inikot mo, that's how reading works. Nakakatuwa siya kasi these are intelligent children, but we have to use a program specific to that child. If a child is diagnosed with a reading disability or disorder, and you want to entrust the child to a certified practitioner of a reading program for reading disorder, disability, check the credentials of your specialist. You have to know how to assess or diagnose child kung anong aspects ng reading or anong sub-skills or anong components ng language ang kailangan to pay attention to. And it takes a lot of practice also, and it takes a certain level of theory and knowledge to approach these kinds of children. You don't like to confuse them even more, and you don't like to compound the difficulties even more. So principals have to be very clear from the beginning. The presentation of the material has to be exactly how that teacher was trained in that particular program. May mga training programs yan, and you'd want a specialist that was really trained and certified.
Thank you again, Teacher Tasha, and to all the mommies watching out there. So if you don't want to miss out on any of our episodes, please don't forget to click like, subscribe, and hit the notification button. Bye! Thank you!